Hello students, very good evening. Welcome to another session of daily news analysis at nextias. I am Anil Tiwari and today we have picked 4 articles for your prelims current affairs preparation. The first article is on RBI's currency swap. The second article is on Microsoft new quantum chip. The third article is on the map of South Pole based on Chandrayaan 3 data. And the last article in prelim section is on the drug ban by Health Ministry. In our main section, we will take up the labor editorial articles appeared in the Hindu. Alright, let's jump into our discussion. So let's start with the first article. The first article is on RBI's long-term currency swap. So there are two words, long-term and currency swap. So recently Trump has been elected as US President. He has cut a lot of taxes. He has given a chance for USA to become again an attractive investment destination. Because of this, a lot of capital has gone out of Indian markets, and that's why there has been a liquidity crisis. To manage this liquidity crisis, RBI has come up, or RBI uses a method called currency swap, and this is for a long period of time. So this is the backdrop of this news, that $10 million rupee swap has taken place recently, and this has been done for around 3 years, and this comes in your Indian economy part of syllabus. Going ahead with this news, let's read the story so far. So I have already explained to you the issue of America becoming an attractive destination again, and the attempt made by RBI to curtail this rise of dollar or depreciation of currency, that is Indian rupees. So the story has been that RBI has already sold out around $111 billion, around 18% of our forex. In January, on January 31st, 2025, around 5 billion for 6 months, and second swap of this 10 billion for 3 years has taken place very recently. Total liquidity that has been injected in Indian market is around 1.3 trillion rupees, this concept I will explain in a little while. And in this concept, further, some economists say that $5 billion still will be needed. So what is a currency swap? That you will ask a question. So imagine you have rupee depreciating and dollar rising. Why it would be happening? Because demand for dollar or supply of dollar, these two things might have been impacted. So demand is rising and the supply is declining. So US, the capital flight, US becoming an investment destination, so supply of dollar is reduced. If this is happening, who will come to rescue? RBI, because RBI has forex. If RBI has forex, what we can do is we can pull out some dollar from this forex and give it to the banks. But this will reduce the forex strength, or let's say the amount of dollar, the number of dollars present in our forex will reduce. So what to do? So RBI says that okay, there will be a currency swap, meaning that I'll give you dollars in an auction for a certain period of time. For example, I'll give you $10 billion for 3 years. So you buy today, all banks will be sitting there, they will be doing auction. So they will bid and they will get this $10 billion, and but within 3 years they have to give back these dollars or buy back the Indian currency. So by that, in a longer period of time, our forex will not deplete because they will be maintained again by rebuy. Alright, if you understood the concept. So RBI will sell the dollars to the banks, and within a time period, the banks will basically buy back these, give back these dollars. So forex will remain the same. Moving ahead, what can be the implication of this currency swap? In UPSC prelims, majorly the currency swap term will come, and there is a question at the end of this slide, and you try to solve that question. So what will be the implication? Implications are very logical to understand. First of all, you can manage the liquidity in the market, and by managing liquidity market, you can enhance the stability in the banking system. Further, you can control you can instill the confidence in the market. If you are managing liquidity in the market, you are basically controlling nothing but the inflation or the interest rate in the market. So what kind of interest rate will be charged is dependent on the liquidity available in the market. So there will be a price stability because you are controlling the inflation. If you are, अगर आप महंगाई control कर रहे हो तो price stability आएगी ही आएगी. Then you can support the economic growth also. Why? Because if the liquidity is pushed in the market, there is a lot of chance that interest rate will fall and investment will take place, and that's why you can ensure support for economic growth. Further implication, if you see, exchange rate will be stable because there is a supply crunch on dollar, so people will not get dollar or they will get on a costlier price, but that will lead to tensions in the exchange market. So by supplying these dollars, RBI makes sure that exchange rate, the Indian rupees and US dollar exchange rate is volatility is controlled, and then we can have a better trade predictability, meaning that somebody who is importing, exporting, they might need dollar on day-to-day basis. They can have dollar, and the predictability can be curtailed. Okay, unpredictability can be curtailed. Further impact will be forex reserve utilization. So we have a lot of dollars in our forex, but the rupee is depreciating, the dollar is rising, and there is trade volatility, and there is this exchange rate tension. Then there is inflation also. All these things can be managed through this scheme, where the RBI is for a certain period of time supplying dollar through an auction, and the banks will return back the dollars once this situation is passed. So it's a good thing that you can efficient asset allocation you can do, and you can basically manage the risk and utilize the forex overall. So it's a good scheme. So remember, the scheme name is currency swap by the RBI. Way forward would be, but there is a catch. The way forward should be that whatever dollars which banks got from RBI through this scheme, they should use to push the growth. They should utilize this in the good and productive sector. So we have to push our growth rate or keep the growth rate at least 6.4% earlier that we have achieved, despite this global economic turbulence. So that's where this scheme becomes very important, and the role of banks also become very important. So I'll give you a question. Try solving this question on currency swap. We will jump to the next topic. So the second article list is relating to the Microsoft claim that they have discovered a novel way to create qubits, and that novel way which ensure that we can have practical quantum computers. You and I can buy a quantum computer. That's the way forward because of this discovery, and it's very important, very key, and it has become very popular. And they have named this new chip as Majorana 1. Google Majorana. What is Majorana? Google it. You will understand why they have named it Majorana. It's a plant. I will give you a hint. It's a plant. It's a very intricate plant, and the goal behind this name is because the way they have placed these qubits, or let's say they have discovered this tapestry in which they will place them or create them, is similar to Majorana. It's a plant. So the Majorana 1 is the name of this new quantum chip, and its relevance is in the science and technology section of your syllabus. So the news is simply this novel way that they have discovered, and it is going to be enabling the pathway for scalable, error-free, meaning error generation is low and error correction is high. That kind of large-scale practical quantum computing can be achieved. Moving ahead, if you look at why this news is so relevant, because the current quantum computers, namely Sycamore, also Google Sycamore, it's also a tree, Sycamore, IBM's quantum computer, or trapped ion qubits, based on these technologies, whatever quantum computers we have, they are very challenging to first of all produce, to run, to make them efficient, to scale them. Why? Because there is a reason. For example, when we use superconducting circuits, for example Sycamore, superconductor, you know that superconducting materials exist at very low temperatures, and if you change this temperature a little bit, then the error will be generated, so the computer will not work. And if you want to create it for everyday life, a supercomputer or a quantum computer, you cannot create it. So because of temperature conditions, these computers are hard to make. The second type of quantum computer, that is trapped ion. This is kept at ultra high vacuum. You know, ultra high vacuum is very difficult to create, difficult to maintain. Slight change will create a lot of errors. So all these challenges exist with the existing computer chips. But Microsoft's Majorana 1 is solving all these problems based on a new method, new technology which they have created. Basically, they have created a new matter, the state of matter, because of some structural changes. Based on that, the qubits created are more stable, more easy to create, more easy to handle. And also remember that we have to handle we have to handle millions of qubits. It's not about one qubit. So millions of qubits can only be handled if they are more stable than usual. Moving ahead, what are qubits? Qubits are basically or quantum bits. If you expand it, quantum bits are nothing but this beyond 0 1 technique. So you all know this is bit 0 to 1. Either it is 0 or 1. You can have two values, yes or no. But qubits can exist between them. Basically 0.1, 0.5, all the values that are possible between 0 and 1 can exist. It's not just 0 and 1. Now you can imagine the possibilities of calculations that you can do based on this expanded area of possibilities. This, if you understand this simple concept and you understand superimposition and entanglement, then you can understand quantum computing. But here in UPSC preparation, you do not need to understand them in depth, or let's say on a scientific level. You simply understand that there is a new science when you go very small in size. We don't exist in quantum thing. We exist in macro level. We can touch things, we can move things. But at the deep down, very small size, you experience quantum physics, quantum mechanics, all these things. What happens there is that every possibility is there. Meaning that, for example, between 0 to 1, a qubit can exist in any position possible. Okay. So, based on this fact, you use two concepts. We call it superimposition and entanglement. Meaning that if there are two states of a particle, then the spin of these two states will remain opposite to each other. So if one state is upwards, the other definitely will be downwards. But if you change these two spins, any one of them, then the other will change without even communicating. So this is entanglement, superimposition and entanglement. And we use this to basically calculate things. That's the basic idea that I can give in a very limited period of time. So there is entanglements which links qubits, and we can basically do a faster computation. Further, qubits are very fragile and prone to error, and that they can generate a lot of errors. And what is quantum computing? Quantum computing is basically a computing based on these qubits, and they are very faster than, for example, this marijuana chip. If you use it, then you can compute things equivalent to all computers available right now on earth. Imagine all the computers, if you combine their capacity together, you can compute that with one computer, one quantum computer. So that's the scale of fastness and speed. So there are two challenges which I have already discussed: qubit stability and then error correction and outcome integrity. So there are a lot of errors, you have to correct them, and the qubits are not that stable. And we are trying to basically remove these through this new chip. What are the applications of quantum computing? This is more important for your UPSC preparation. They will not ask you the science behind quantum computers that much, but they will ask you the applications. So applications are multifold. Climate modeling, because climate events are multifaceted. They involve a lot of factors, intricacy of these factors, impact of these factors on each other. To calculate all these impacts and data analysis and everything require a lot of computing powers, and quantum computers can help that because they have a lot of computing power. You can use this in material science, because creating material science, or let's say creating new material, require a lot of research, a lot of restructuring, a lot of analysis. So you can basically innovate in that sector. AI is very understandable because AI requires a lot of processing of data, and quantum computers are good processors. And then we have cryptography, all these blockchains, approval of this ledger, because in blockchain we have nodes. These nodes are nothing but computers. These computers use electricity and then verify these transactions. Based on that, this decentralized system of exchange ledger work, but quantum computer can save a lot of energy. They can they can solve a lot of cryptocurrency problems and mine this currency also. Then we have process optimization. This can be done, and then we have drug discovery, because here also a lot of data processing is needed. Moving ahead, what is the status of quantum computing in India? The first thing you should know, National Quantum Computing Mission. This mission was launched in 2023, and it aims to develop quantum technologies across computing, communication and sensing of budget 6,000 crore. Around 6,000 crores have been allocated to this National Quantum Computing Mission. Then we have Quantum Enabled Science and Technology. Department of Science and Technology aim to basically research and establish lab for quantum computing. Here is a question for prelims. Solve this question and submit your answer in the comment section. We will jump to the next article. The next article relates to the mapping of Moon's south pole by none other than our Chandrayaan-3 mission. The Pragyan and Vikram, the Vikram lander and the Pragyan rover, they have sent a lot of data, and we have created a moon, a map of the south pole. Not only that, we have done a lot of research. So this news is about this geological map of the Moon's south pole created by the Chandrayaan-3 data. The relevance is in the general science section of your syllabus. Moving ahead, the news is relating to this great achievement, and we have also done a research about Moon's evolution and origin also. This is a big question. There is a big question: how did we get our Moon? And we have done an initial research, and we found that Moon and Earth share a evolutionary history, at least 4.7 billion years of evolutionary history. Earth is much older than this time period. So we will look at it, what Chandrayaan-3 has found. So first of all, it has confirmed that Moon has magma, liquid magma, just like Earth, and this was proven, or let's say predicted at least, by the Apollo missions, but they did not have enough data. Chandrayaan-3 has produced enough data to confirm that yes, we have molten rock on the Moon surface, or let's say beneath the Moon surface, and it was the first high latitude polar mission. That was an achievement, and this extent of magma has been discovered because of this high altitude polar mission. We have also got some geological insights, that is regions age. So regions age is around 3.7 billion years. That is correlating with the emergence of microbial life on Earth. So we get the evidence of microbial life around 3.7 billion years ago, and also we find the region on the pole, the Moon's pole, we found it to be the similar age. Then we have something found on the evolution of the Earth. We know that 4.5 billion years ago, there was a Mars size body which collided with Earth and created debris. From that debris, we got our Moon. This debris, because of its gravitational pull, got together this Moon, and then in the early history of Moon, it got a lot of bombardment from the asteroids. And based on these studies, we have found this, that yes, it confirms based on geochemistry and similar isotopes. We find similar isotopes on Moon and on Earth, and then we also find a lot of geochemistry commonality here and there. About Chandrayaan-3, it was launched on 14 July 2023. Earlier we failed Chandrayaan-2, or let's say it got failed, but Chandrayaan-3 became the first ever interplanetary mission to land on Moon's south pole, soft landing on Moon's south pole, and it aims to demonstrate the capacity of safe landing and exploration on the Moon surface. I'll ask you a question, comment in the comment section. What is the difference between soft landing and hard landing? We have done hard landing in Moon 1, Chandrayaan mission 1, but we have done the soft landing in the next mission. So what is the difference between hard and soft landing? So Chandrayaan 1 was launched in October 2008, which discovered water on the Moon surface. It was a very successful mission. Then we have launched Chandrayaan 2 in 2019, but the soft landing failed. And then we have launched the Chandrayaan-3, based on which we have gotten this data and we have created all this information which we have discussed. So here is a question for you on Chandrayaan-3. Try to solve this question and comment your answers in the comment section below. The next article is on the ban by the drug authority in the health ministry, the ban of tapentadol and carisoprodol. So tapentadol and carisoprodol, these two are basically drugs which are used for pain relief. They are opioids created from opium or alternatives, and they basically relax your muscle and release the pain, but it has been misused also. So this drug authority has banned its export. The combination has been banned. Individually they are still available in India, but they have banned the exports. This is the news. Tapentadol and carisoprodol has been banned by the ministry. So for UPSC, it is important that you know a little bit about these drugs. So I have already discussed, these are opioids created from opium. These two are they are muscle relaxant basically, and works on the nervous system, or let's say the center of the brain, and relieve you of your pain. And they have been approved by CDSCO, and CDSCO also regulates the export and import of the drugs in India. And a little bit about Central Drug Standards Control Organization. This is a authority, the major authority, the court authority headed by the Drug Control General of India, DCGI, and this DCGI heads this organization, and this organization comes under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and obviously it regulates the standards and export import approval of the drugs in India and outside India. And what could be the conclusion? The conclusion is that we have released new export requirements, and they have given a new checklist for NOC if you want to export it. And the update basically aims to uproot the narcotics selling of drugs, illegal selling of drugs. Here's a question for you in this topic. It was a small topic. Only thing you should know is about the Drug Controller Board, or let's say this organization, and the drugs, a little bit about these drugs. So here is a question for you, and this is our prelims discussion. Let's jump into the mains section of our today's DNA discussion. So for today's mains section of our DNA, we have picked two articles. These two articles are focusing on labor market, or particularly India's informal sector in the first article, and in the second article the focus is on global labor supply mismanagement, or different needs for labor at different areas around the world. So this topic comes under GS3, Indian economy, and the backdrop is a bigger one. Recently you have seen in news that major companies and their CEOs, particularly Infosys and L&T, they have been arguing about longer working hours, that if people want to grow, they have to work for longer hours. This article tries to put that into a perspective based on the structure of the Indian economy, and why in Indian economy we do not need to focus more on working hours, because we are already working on longer hours, but we need to focus on innovation because our productivity is very low. That's why we always go for longer working hours. So before I start discussing this article, I would give you a simple example. Imagine a printing house. That printing house has a printer that can print on one side of the page, and it takes, let's say, 4 hours to print a book. Let's say somebody opens up a new printing house and it prints on both sides of the book. So one printing house printing on one side of the page, the printer is basically printing on the both side of the page. So who do you think will be more productive, and where you would want to work for longer hours and compete? The first house will ask the worker to work for 4 hours to print one book, but in the second printing house they can produce that book in 2 hours. So the working conditions can be made better in the second house. Ideally, they will not do it, but ideally it can be done. So innovation and technology, change in technology is very important in order to get better working conditions, because you can compete. So if a company can compete because of productivity, because of technology with the other companies which are less productive, then that company can have a little working hours, less working hours. We will see, based on ILO report from the Europe, we will see that this can happen. So there have been questions on structural issues in the Indian economy. Because of these structural issues, we have unemployment, and there have been a question in 2016 on the reduction of employment in the formal sector in the Indian economy. This article is also mentioning that Indian corporate sector or Indian factory sector, the larger factories, they have been abetting a sinister trend. They have been abetting that our manufacturing sector or our sector do not become formalized, because if it becomes formalized, it will come under regulations. If it comes under regulations, then you have to follow the working conditions, wages, salary and everything, and they have been avoiding it. This demand by Narayan Murthy and other people for, let's say, 70 hours per week, or let's say 80 hours per week by some other CEO, is not what we need right now. Why? Because as PLFS survey 2023-24 says that only around 22%, 21.7 to be exact, percent of India's worker were having a regular job with salary. So these 60-70 working hours is not only good for 20% of the workforce. The rest of them work as a casual worker or self-employed. So either way this will not apply. And then further it says that within these 22% of people who are getting salary, तनख्वाह पाने वाले लोग जो 22% है वर्कर्स के, PLF सर्वे कह रहा है, out of them half of them had to face informal working conditions. In meme culture we say the Lala company. If you work in a Lala company, there is no working hours, there is no paid leave, there is nothing, and everything is done in informal face-to-face basis, no paperwork, nothing, and there is no fixed social security, you do not have PF, you do not have anything. So all these companies, they exploit this informal sector, informality of the nature of the work. So this fact pushes the debate to the other side, that why longer working hours. Further, this writer in this article says that the migrant workers in Ludhiana, they are working for 11 to 12 hours already, or on a day they work for 16 hours also. The rest of the time they spend is only on cooking, sleeping and eating food. That's it. They have no other time. So working hours are already, as you can infer from this, that working hours are already 11-12 hours per day. Further, there is an issue in India which is small firm and large firms. So the example is of manufacturing sector. So in India, what is happening is that many big businesses, or let's say many big firms, they are creating a product, but the supply of raw material, or let's say the components, are done by smaller firms. These firms have 10 workers, maybe 12 workers, and they are completely informal. But what happens with these small firms, they supply the raw material or components to the larger firms, but these larger firms are basically not catering well to the smaller firms. In Japan, this has happened that larger firms and smaller firms, they work in sync and they both grow. But in India, the larger firms are keeping these smaller firms informal and also keeping the working conditions on the worst side because they are not part of the regulations, because they are informal, and that's where exploitation takes place. So how exploitation takes place? Before that, I'll give you a data. The data is that over 70% of India's manufacturing workforce, around 68 million in 2021-2022, are in small unregistered enterprises where workers are less than 10. Now let us discuss the reasons for exploitation. So you can imagine exploitation. These small firms, they supply their products to the larger firms. Larger firms do not do payment on time, so payment will be delayed. So payment delayed meaning what? That they are living hand to mouth. Payment are not coming on time, they cannot innovate, they cannot think of innovation, they cannot think larger. Further, even the cost price of the material have risen, the product price has not risen, they are not ready to pay them more. Then there is a lot of lack of support from the state also. For example, banking sector is not giving loan to, because if you have an informal company with 10 people, which bank is going to give you loan? No bank, because you don't have paperwork, you don't have regular to and fro when it comes to wages, or when it comes to supply, when it comes to inventory, you have nothing, you are informal completely. So the banking sector will not support you. Further, we have cheap imports that are coming to India. and these cheap imports are further pushing the smaller firms to the brink. Moreover, we have a contractualization of labor force. So around 56% since 2011-12, 2011-12 के बाद 56%, 56% of the workforce employed is employed through contracts, ठेकेदारी के थ्रू 56% के आसपास. अब you and I know what happens with contract workers. They have no right, literally no rights. They work on the whims of the ठेकेदार. The company has no responsibility regarding these workers, and they have been exploited. Moving ahead, one might argue that okay, there is a lot of turbulence in the global market, there is a lot of turbulence in the stock market, there is a lot of turbulence in the Indian economy, there is a pandemic and everything is going on, so the larger firms, the big guys, they are also getting impacted. No, they are not getting impacted. Data is here. Data says that profits as a share of value added. Why this is important? Because value addition is done by the labor. So whatever the labor has given the value addition, from that percentage share of profit was 31% in 2019-20, and after pandemic what has happened? This has become 46%. Do you know why? Because after pandemic, using this logic that there is a downturn in the economy, they have reduced the wages. They have not increased the wages. Inflation has been there, so their wages have become very less otherwise. So the argument that the market is going through turbulence and profit might not have been there is falling flat on its face. The rise in the profits is a visible data. Moving ahead, here comes the solution. So what we are relying? In India, we are relying on cheap labor. Basically, we are arguing that we have a lot of cheap labor, so we will ask them to work for longer hours and we will compete with the outer world. It is not happening. It cannot happen. Why? Because innovation moves things in a way that labor work hours can never move. And further, if you make labor or your workforce to work for longer hours, their productivity declines further. So at one hand, you are not giving them good machinery. Second hand, you are saying that you work for longer hours. So their productivity is low, your machine is low. So you are not going to compete with the market in the long run. In short run, you will see the benefits. In the short run, you will see profits. In the short run, you will be the king. But in the long run, the company will lose for the with the larger, bigger companies. So in Britain, this changed in the 19th century. We are very, very far behind. In the middle of 19th centuries, they have changed sweeping economic reforms. They have given technological changes, and the working hours, as per the ILO report, have been reduced to 36 to 38 hours in countries like US and Japan, while we still are stuck at around 46.7 hours on an average. Remember, this has happened because of significant rise in productivity. Do you understand what is productivity? Productivity is if two people are working and one can finish the work in 2 hours, the other takes 4 hours, then first one is more productive. Given time, it can work more, it can produce larger value. So if you are happy, if your working condition is good, if you are feeling happy, if you have good basis, then you work more. You work more within the given period of time and you produce a lot of stuff. So that stuff becomes cheap because cost is less, and that's how you compete with the world. In India, we are rather relying on cheap labor. Our argument is completely different. We will not change the productivity, but we would want you to work more hours. But this is not working. Case in example is garment sector. For 20 years, the share of garment sector has been stagnant at 3.1% for 20 years. Why? Because we have not modernized the machines. We have not modernized the garment sector. China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, they took away because they modernized their garment sectors. Their working condition is not all good, but they are competing. So eventually they will become better working. There will be better working conditions. But in India, the profits are rising for the big companies, but the smaller firms, the labor, they are being exploited. So this was the first article on labor reforms. The second article is on skilled workforce. The second article is arguing that India should tap into this need by 2030 of a larger workforce, skilled workforce, new skilled workforce, so that we can capture this around 8.45 trillion revenue potential. So the story is simple, that by 2030 we will be needing X amount of people to work on a particular job, but we will not have that many working candidates based on present trends. So you will not, आपके पास आदमी होंगे नहीं काम करने के लिए, but काम होगा, तो होगा क्या, रेवेन्यू का लॉस होगा, वो करीब करीब है 8.45 trillion dollars का. So this lady is saying that we should work on it and we should tap into this. How we can tap into this? We can have coordinated efforts, we can collaborate with the private sector and the government sector. Then we can have policy interventions. For example, Germany and India, they did a deal. Then we can have targeted strategies. So the potential loss is globally. So we need to supply labor all around the world. So we can basically have policy interventions. We can have targeted strategies like focusing training on AI and ML specifically. Then we can have international cooperation. For example, AI summit in France, where they talked about skills. What is the need? What kind of need we can see in the future? We will see, because based on this analysis of the need, we can have strategic training for different sectors. I'll give you an example. In Gulf region, Gulf and in Australia, we will need manufacturing sector. A lot of people required in manufacturing sector and construction sector. So you should train people. For example, recently we have seen Israel and India have this deal for manufacturing sector. Sorry. In Europe, on the other hand, we will need a lot of people working in service sector. But overall, we will need healthcare workers, because population is getting older and we will need healthcare professionals. So we can train healthcare professionals. Overall, we will need more of service sector labor than manufacturing, and we will need a lot of people working on automation, AI, IoT, blockchain and data analytics. So this is the picture of the 2030, that what we will need. Based on this, people can prepare. If people prepare and people supply, for example, Europe, you have seen rise of right wing. In US, you have seen right wing. Everywhere the policy is changing in order to prevent migration, in order to prevent labor exchange. They want to have protectionist policies, whereby the jobs are supplied to the local people, but the training gap is there, people are less. So there are certain barriers we have to basically overcome. The barriers are such that, first of all, we have regulatory and immigration barriers. So United States is in prime example. We have complex visa processes, stringent work permits. For example, if you study in UK, you cannot work there after you study, but in US you can do this. Exploitative recruitment practices. So if somebody wants to work in Gulf region, they go through this agent and then they exploit them. They capture their passport, they work them for extreme conditions, and then they cannot come back home. There are a lot of conditions. So this is exploitative recruitment processes. Then we have cultural and language barriers. So to work in Germany and France, you need to learn French in Germany. So that's a career. And then there is a lack of diaspora. There is a lot of diaspora is there in US, and English is spoken there. But if you want to work in Gulf and let's say Europe, you need to learn new languages. You need to adjust to their religious beliefs and practices. So there is a lot of integration challenges and productivity and proficiency challenges. Because if you do not enjoy a country working there, the weather there, then you cannot work proficiently or efficiently. So that's an issue. Now we have policy barriers and skill mismatches. So degrees from India are not recognized everywhere. Okay, so we need to have an agreement on these degree recognitions. And further, we have recruitment malpractices and trafficking. This donkey ride to US, this is also an issue. And then PM also talked about in USA about trafficking and other things. What government is trying to do? Government is trying to do various skill development programs whereby we will align our skills to the global needs, and we are giving a digital platform for the workers in order to address their trafficking issues, the safety and security and welfare of the workers. We have FTAs and bilateral agreements. For example, we have joint India-UAE vision on skill cooperation. These are some efforts which are mentioned in the article. What we need is further strategical measures. We need skill training. We need to align our skills to the global standards. we need to recognize these qualifications. We need to have a circular migration method. So all the rise of right wing is happening because there is a one-way supply of labor force. But if we have a circular supply of labor force, for example, everybody can move everywhere, then we can have these less number of these issues. Then we have to regulate the recruitment also, and then we have public private partnership that can happen in order to improve these conditions. What can be the conclusion? Conclusion is that it will impact India's GDP if we can tap into these 9 trillion, almost $9 trillion. We can have a growth rate and we can have a Viksit Bharat realization. And this is what importance of skilling will mean. Now there is a question. Try to attempt this question and submit your answers or get them reviewed by someone. And this is for today's discussion. We'll meet again tomorrow. Please like, subscribe and follow nextias for daily current affairs analysis. All right. Thank you.